Oh, except you can't see those blue eyes now because he's wearing his aviators outside and looks even more handsome than ever. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Steph. How we doing?
Good. So, all right, let's start with that. Since the vice president obviously just talked about it yesterday. We've talked about this before. If there's not voting rights, there's nothing. There's no other issues because we have no democracy. I know a lot of us are getting frustrated about justice on a lot of fronts. So talk to us about what this is I say we fight it on every level. So the $25 million investment to expand voting rights by the DNC is a start. But what about legally? What in terms of what Merrick Garland is doing? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So first of all, Steph, the good news is they can't stop us from getting to the polls. They can try. They can say no water. They can say fewer drop boxes. They cannot stop us from getting to the polls. But legally, what can be done? Well, this is where the Department of Justice has to either put on the gloves or take off the gloves. They have to get serious, because these laws will not attack themselves. The Department of Justice has to attack the laws that are being passed in state after state to tamp down voting of, let's call it what it is, communities of color. And it looks like the Supreme Court is not going to be much help, right? Because of their recent opinion saying, well, as long as the law doesn't have a discriminatory intent, even if it does have a discriminatory effect, it's okay. Well, guess what? There's not a single state legislature that's passing a voter suppression law saying, in our zeal to suppress the black vote, we are passing the following law. It's all about the impact that the law has. So the Department of Justice needs to enter the fray, not only in Georgia, but in every single state, because the Department of Justice is our law firm and it needs to fight for us.
Well, Chris, did you just say they're starting a third audit or whatever it is, recount in Arizona?
Yep.
In Pennsylvania, it looks like they're pushing back on this attempt to do the same thing they're doing in Arizona. This stuff just has to be shut down, doesn't it? I don't even understand how it's legal in the first place to seize the physical ballots and take them to a cabin in Montana and violate democracy.
It sure feels illegal. It feels like an abuse of our rights as voters, right? To have some privacy, some sanctity, some comes when you have judges in these states who are willing to issue a court order saying, yeah, the cyber ninja, accounting firm can do whatever they want with the ballots. It gives them this sort of veneer of legal cover. This is why you can't rely on the states to police themselves. The Department of Justice has to enter the fray. Unfortunately, as important as holding Trump accountable for his countless crimes against the American people, as important as that is, what's even more important at this moment is for the Department of Justice to attack what's being done by the states to interfere with a free and fair election.
Yeah. Well, because obviously at this hour, it doesn't look great in terms of the filibuster and trying to do it legislatively, does it?
Yeah, I don't understand the mansions and the cinemas. We really are allowing the tyranny of the minority, the Republicans, the party voted out of power. We're allowing the tyranny of the minority to basically take away our right to vote. That doesn't make any sense to me, and that's got to change.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you probably saw John Dean tweeted about Trump's ridiculous Facebook, Twitter, whatever lawsuit, which is, of course, not a First Amendment suit because the government. Didn't Alan Dershowitz say this is the biggest First Amendment case in history?
He did.
Except that it is not, because it has to be the government. It's a private company, is not the government. So it's not a First Amendment. It's the largest case in that it's not a First Amendment case at all, right? Right, Glenn?
Yeah. But and I'll take Dershowitz's word for it as much as I'll take Rudy Giuliani, disgraced fallen lawyer's word for it. This is not. Listen, the First Amendment doesn't say Twitter shall pass no law abridging the freedom of speech.
Yes.
Right? It's about Congress shall pass no law, and that includes the executive branch. The president can't issue an executive order taking away our free speech rights. Twitter, Google, Facebook ain't the government.
Right.
This is not but you know, this is not a legitimate lawsuit, Steph.
Right.
This is a grift. This is a money-raising endeavor by Donald Trump. That is everything. The motive behind everything he does is to line his own pockets. This suit will not see the light of day. The only question is, how will it be dismissed?
Well, but here's what I wanted to ask you: may have heard John Dean tweeted, "This should be a nationally televised deposition. Please schedule it next week. Don't move to dismiss, which would be the normal move. Make him deal with the trap he created for himself. He will lose on the merits." So where was he on O'Reilly yesterday? Trump. He said he will give a deposition for his lawsuit about the social media company, even though that means he'll have to testify about the storming of the U.S. Capitol. O'Reilly asked Trump how he'll respond when they argue in court that he was banned for inciting the riot. He said, "I didn't." He went on to deny his involvement in the arrest, complained about the media, bragged about the size of the rally that turned into a riotous mob, once again pushed his false claim about a fraudulent election. So, as we know, Trump has a long history of threatening lawsuits that he doesn't follow through on. O'Reilly said they're going to want to take a deposition from you, right? And he said, you're going to sit for a deposition. So Trump said, sure. I mean, I look forward to it, actually. I love talking about the election fraud. What do you make of this? So is he going to sit for a deposition where he's under oath about January 6th?
No, and I don't want to burst everybody's bubble, because we would love to see a nationally televised deposition of Donald Trump, because after the first question, please state your name, he could tell the truth about nothing else. And I'm not even sure he'd get his middle name right. But frankly, he will not sit for a deposition. And here's why. One of two reasons. Either Google, Facebook, and Twitter will move to dismiss the case on summary judgment because it is not a supportable lawsuit. But if they don't, for tactical reasons, like John Dean was suggesting, if they don't in deposition, Trump's lawyers will then move to dismiss their own suit. Why? Because they've grifted all the money from his red hat wearing gullible base that they can. And then they'll find some reason to say, you know what? We have rethought our litigative position. We are dismissing the lawsuit. Why? Because he ain't going to sit for a deposition.
Yeah. So you tweeted why the Trump Organization criminal charges may open the indictment floodgates. You discussed on your fantastic YouTube discussions, a discussion of the precedent and absence of precedent, and why the DOJ must take a maiden legal voyage and indict Trump for his crimes. And I love the way you said it. You said, as a 30-year prosecutor, I can tell you we are reluctant to bring cases that have no precedent, but sometimes we must, like indicting for the first time a criminal former president. You create precedent by taking a maiden legal voyage because #Justice Matters, I'm guessing. So talk to us about that.
Sure. So anybody who says because there's no precedent for charging a former president, you can't do it, is a circular argument. It's a specious argument, because then you would never be able to do it. Even if the president brought all of his political opponents into the Oval Office and shot them all, you couldn't prosecute a sitting president because the argument goes, you've never done it before. Well, that's absurd, because there can be no precedent if you don't do something for the first time. As a prosecutor, I took maiden legal voyages at the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office and the courts of Washington, D.C. And sometimes we made precedent and sometimes I failed. I lost. But you know what? It was a righteous thing to do, trying to vindicate the rights of the victim, protect the community, and you do it, win, lose, or draw. We have to do this for the first time and attempt to set precedent.
Well, okay, let's talk about, first of all, what's happening in Georgia? Why is that case why have we not heard anything about that? I mean, so many of these cases to us lay people, Glenn, look so slam dunk. It is on tape, the election interference, right?
Great question. And the piece I wrote this week for MSNBC Daily, I tried to set out my view of this as a former career prosecutor. And the reason I say the floodgates are not open yet for indicting Donald Trump, but I think there's a significant crack in the dam and the water is beginning to pour through, because the Trump Organization has been criminally indicted. What is the Trump Organization? It's Donald Trump. We all know it. It's always been Donald Trump. So that is not yet a personal indictment of the president, but it's getting pretty darn close. No prosecutor, not in Georgia, not in New York, not at the Department of Justice, wants to be the first. I can tell you, not that there's overly
that's what
timid,
I want. That's what I wondered, right? It's you know.
They don't want to be the first, because then they will get all the intense scrutiny. But once somebody does it, like Georgia, because the crime is on recorded audio tape, once somebody does it, everybody's going to want to be in the Trump prosecution game. And then you're going to see the indictments begin to flow.
Is it, Glenn, it almost feels to me like he did the exact same thing in Arizona. I just don't know if we have I think because the guy didn't return the phone call, we don't have the actual phone call evidence, but couldn't you also build a case in Arizona for election interference from what we're told?
Absolutely. But you know what? We've already got everything we need to prove that he violated Georgia state election laws by telling election officials down there, somebody better find me 11,780 votes that fell off the back of a truck somewhere so I can wrongfully be declared the winner. Yeah. You know, that's mob talk, right? That's easy to prove to a jury. Press play. We rest our case. Ladies and gentlemen, go deliberate and convict this mope.
So you said your overview of the Trump Organization Weisselberg indictment, these crimes are deadly serious. The evidence is strong, and all indicators suggest there are more charges to come, which is as it should be. So I think it was our friend Cynthia Oxney said she feels like Ivanka could be next, because we've heard obviously a lot about that same kind of setup where she's getting paid as a consultant while she's a full-time employee. I mean, this just seems like tax evasion 101, the two sets of books, all of it. So where do you think this goes? Because I think you said to us last time, Glenn, that you know, they've already got the documents that they like Weisselberg's cooperation, but they don't need it. Where do you think things stand now?
Yeah, when you read that 24-page indictment that was handed down against the Trump Organization and Weisselberg, even Weisselberg's tax preparer flipped on him. Weisselberg is dead and stinking in a court of law. He will be convicted if he chooses not to flip. I still don't think they need him. And two most ominous things, Steph, in that 24-page indictment. One is there's an unindicted co-conspirator. We don't know who it is, but it's been reported that it is likely the controller of the organization, Jeffrey McConney. If he has flipped, and he went into the grand jury because that was confirmed, if he has flipped and it looks like he has, they don't need Weisselberg. They've got the documents, they've got the controller of the organization. But even more ominous, there are two other people who are unnamed, but the indictment says two other people got the same kind of criminal perks that Alan Weisselberg got. High up enough in the Trump Organization, who is so firmly entrenched in Donald Trump's circle that they might have enjoyed the same criminal benefits and perks that Alan Weisselberg got and is now being prosecuted for. You know what? I'll bet a buck, and that's my betting limit, that their last name is Trump.
Wow. Okay. And real quick, you also said following New York's lead, D.C. appellate court suspends Giuliani's D.C. law license. What's next for Rudy? Remember those search warrants for the criminal evidence in his electronic devices? Rudy's about to go through some things. So this is New York and D.C. He's lost his license. So what is going on? They're still combing through the electronic devices? Where is that at?
Yes, accountability is finally coming for the crooked, like Rudy Giuliani. So in 30 words or less, once the FBI seized all of his electronic devices, why? Because a judge concluded there was evidence of crime in his electronic devices. They were turned over to what's called a special master. It's just an independent person who's reviewing everything in his electronic devices to see if there's any protected or attorney-client privileged information that the prosecutor shouldn't have. And then everything gets handed over to the prosecutors, and it will all be used against Rudy Giuliani. Criminal indictments for Rudy Giuliani are likely to come soon.
Yay, justice is coming. We always get to the end of the ride.
Yes, that would make a
fun.
great hashtag.
Wow.
That would make a great hashtag.
Yes.
Wow!
Oh, there's no climax like a Glenn Kirschner climax.
Oh, boy.
Legally.
I'm not touching that one. I am not touching that one.
He's in public.
Legally,
right now.
justice
Stop
has
that.
come. Justice has come. I love you, Glenn Kirschner. Thanks so much for doing
Love you,
this.
Steph.
All right, bye.
Thanks,
See you
Glenn.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
21
right.
minutes. Where
Bye.
did you... I mean, do we even need to do a commercial for the Steph store? I mean, the shirts are flying off the right. Look at this. Look at it. Get your face
Look
up
at
there.
that.
Get your face up there. Look. We have them for Team Pfizer, Team J&J. We are all Team Vaccine here. We have amazing.
That's right.
And you can get it on everything. Right, Chris? Not just shirts.
Bath mats, shower curtains. You can get it on art, a clock. You can get
Duvet.
a selfie bomb on a clock.
We have Stephanie Miller swag. We have sexy liberal swag. And, of course, all the vaccine shirts. Get it now. StephanieMiller.com. Whee!